Welcome back, everyone. It is Galaxy of Unity Project's talk show, and we are here with the second part with Ileana, the Star Traveler. Thank you so much for joining us again for an exciting interview.
Thank you so much, Apollymi. I'm Ileana, the Star Traveler. I'm a psychic. I am an intuitive medium. I'm also a hypnosis practitioner. I'm a secret space program experiencer, and it's nice to be here on this show, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, we have some exciting topics for you guys, so strap yourselves in and get comfortable. Do you think that the government will ever, maybe not openly disclose the existence of our programs? Like, do you think they'll ever come to us and be like, here's your pension?
No,
here's your payment for all your years of service. And I mean, I remember getting a letter, but it's been a long time, but it's just like, are they ever going to actually come up to us and be like, you've been part of this program? Here's all of your files of what we've done to you.
I don't think so. The governments will never disclose that type of information. If people want to know what they did in these programs, hypnosis is part of the process of kind of getting a screenshot of what you did in your files, what's in your memories. That's the best way I found to getting to that deep info in the subconsciousness. I don't think the governments will ever do that, give us that pension or our files, because it goes beyond the governments. It's actually these programs off-world that are the systems and the structures. It's not part of the human government. So it wouldn't be the human governments to give us that unless these programs disclose themselves and have a message through the governments, but the governments, human governments, wouldn't have access to those files because that stuff originated from those programs. So it's up to those programs to give that information to us. You have to go back to their origination of the source where it all started, which program you were in, what you did with them, what missions, what projects. It goes back to them. The onus is on them to give us that info, not the human governments. The human governments might disclose their existence, but they have to give us that information. And pension? What pension? They did not promise me a pension in the secret space program. They only promised me I would retain some medical knowledge of how to work with my human body to regenerate my immune system and heal some things that the reptilian abductions had done to me. So that's all I got as a basic promise, to have some retention of what my Neuralink implants were downloading in medical information to do my job on the basis.
Speaking of implants, like, I know that every faction has implants of some form or another, whether they be like more organic and crystalline or the ones that you can actually find on CAT scans or X-rays. How many variants of implants, if you can, are there that are being put into basically super soldiers on Earth?
There's the nanotechnology implants, which is partly etheric, might be crystalline, might be nanotechnology. Those will not be picked up on the CAT scan or the MRI. There's the chips, smaller chips or the microchips. Those are the physical ones. That will pick up on scans, and that's painful. There's also magnetic implants. There's energetic implants. There's parasitic implants. That is organic living matter with some kind of a sentience in it that is interacting with your biofield. There's electromagnetic implants. Those are the ones that I'm aware of what I found in people's bodies when I do implant removals. Mine were etheric, energetic, and nanotech together. That's the 4 Neuralinks that I had in the left hemisphere of my brain, which are gone. It was never connected to any AI system. It was enclosed implants. I could connect to the holographic databases, but that was not controlled by an AI system. It was just holographic technology. Because the Planetary Corp does not want AI taking over their system, so they don't work with sentient AI in any of their systems. They don't want that. They're aware of infestation by AI in other systems, so they're not interested in bringing AI to the forefront. That's not part of their development, but the Neuralink implants are. So I would say some implants even connect to AI, sentient AI machines that feed them information, whether good or bad. Some implants have the capacity to connect to AI systems and give you data, streamline data to your mind, and then you go and disclose it, which I don't recommend. That's not safe because often that gives you disinformation.
You can also get viruses from your implants as well, which can really mess you up.
Indeed. Yeah. My implants leaked nanofiber gold in my brain, caused brain swelling, almost caused me to die. My vision was blurry, my speech was impaired, my memory was almost gone, and I have a photographic memory. So I had to use plasma therapy. From what I remember, injecting different types of plasma therapies into my own body with those biological drug serums that I created to regenerate my own immune system and create more oxygen in my body, because Mars' atmosphere is thinner. So when you go to Mars, your body takes time to adapt to that. When I gave myself the dermal injector with a plasma antigen something in it, I could literally have more oxygen in my body because the plasma sort of regenerated the capacity to produce more oxygen in the body, to physically feel stronger. And then I took another antigen synthesis that I created that I did basically I used the replicator to replicate different plasma antigens. And I did one to heal the immune system. But because you don't have that on Earth, you don't have a replicator on Earth, I have to use human plasma donation to work on my immune system. Because when you're out of the program, you don't have a clean slate of health. If you had a medical pre-existing condition that you went into the program with that they fixed, unfortunately, when they bring you back through the quantum time leap technology, they bring you back exactly as you were before. Any fixes that they did to you are gone, because there can't be any evidence that you ever served in these programs. So I had to figure out what I had done with those biological drug serums, replicate that on Earth through human plasma therapy.
So you're still working on them now physically here on this planet?
I get a plasma therapy infusion every week to keep my immune system stable and working.
I was going to say, you look a lot better than the last time that I saw you. You look more lively.
Well, I get plasma therapy every day. Sometimes I hardly get any sleep and I'm just out and about because it gives me more energy. It boosts my cognitive abilities, just gives me more brain power, these plasma infusions. And no, I'm not a vampire. I don't drink blood. I don't infuse blood. It's human plasma that I infuse that's clean. Yeah, it's been centrifuged, and anything diseases or anything that's impure, that includes, the other injections, that's cleaned out of human plasma. You get the pure plasma, nothing else in your body. And that's from my SSP stuff. Those memories.
Not to try to pry, and you don't have to say yes. So this plasma, are you getting it from like the plasma centers? People can go in and actually donate plasma, and it helps with all of this medical research and cures and just helps people survive. If you got all sorts of ailments and everything. We have one here in our city too, and they pay pretty good, which is nice because you're donating part of your body and they're making sure that you're well off for it.
Yeah, so they do pay people for plasma donations at the plasma centers. Then the plasma is cleaned up, separated from the blood, and then it goes to the blood bank, the plasma. And every 4 months they pick it up, the medication. It's a medication. It's human product, natural biological plasma medication. So it doesn't have any preservatives in it. It's just pure plasma. Somehow they're able to create a human blood component separated from the plasma, and you get the plasma component in the biological drug. it is literally a biological drug that you can inject into yourself. And that's what I do every week. I do 30 ml of plasma infusion. And that's enough to keep me going once a week. And that's all I need. And I'll be doing this for the rest of my life to stabilize my immune system. So that's the knowledge I got from my Neuralink implants, what I medically downloaded to do my job, to synthesize these biological drug serums. I remembered that through hypnosis, I retrieved it, and I was able to apply it here in the physical Earth world to do that. It's different because you have a dermal injector on Mars, so it doesn't hurt. You just go, psh, it injects, and here you have to do needles with the infusion.
After being abducted a lot and just in the programs and all the test labs that people run on us soldiers, you know, and just in general, especially if you're not human, it can get pretty rigorous and painful sometimes. So I'm sure your faction makes everyone as comfortable as possible, but
yeah,
I've been to some that are just, you know, your pain is your own right to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I find the best fatty tissue on my body, and I do the needling and I do the infusion. And over time, it's not so painful anymore. I'm just used to it. And it's just part of my life cycle, and it's fine. It's just great to have this medical information back to retrieve it, because I had the Neuralink implants. Even though the implants are gone, I still have all the stuff that I ever downloaded through them stored in my brain. That I can't erase and I can't wipe. And I don't want to, because I want to have the data. So
yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's definitely something that could better humanity in the future for sure.
I hope so. I hope that the dark aspect of these programs is cleaned up and there's some oversight and there's some checks and balances for the future, so that we benefit from what they're doing and experimenting on and implementing in terms of the health benefits of the regenerative technology. I hope that one day it comes to us. But again, there's so much information about disclosure, all the moving bits and pieces. I think we're getting some of that with the UFO disclosure. We're getting some of it now. And I think those UAPs that are flying over the military, Navy exercises and carrier ships, I think that's the SSP crafts being like drones, being piloted by people who have implants, just remote testing them.
So for those of us who don't pay attention to the news, could you go into more detail on that?
Yeah, so military pilots who are piloting military jets in war exercises in 2007, 2004, 2017, they're now reporting that they had UFO sightings of tic-tac or gimbal-sized craft of some sort who are making crazy maneuvers, flying around the jets left, right, up, down, spearing, going into the water, left, right, and then shooting off. And cube-type UFO craft that are sort of translucent as well. They're reporting that. And that's not typical news. That's UFO news. It's in the UFO field. So it's on YouTube. It's everywhere. It's reported now. And the US government has acknowledged through congressional hearings now, and the US Navy, that UFOs are real. And we're in contact with some unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. UFOs are now called UAPs. And they can go underwater, they can go in the air, they can go above the atmosphere, they can fly in space, and they're observable in how fast they can go. They can go beyond Mach 10 in speed. I think that's SSP technology from Mars and the Moon, Planetary Corp and other factions, and they're just teasing the US Navy and the military with the tech that they have, and they're making it known slowly, disclosing what's up there, what's on Mars and the Moon, that we have, that they have superior technology. It's seamless. There's no nuts and bolts. There's no lines or angles. There's no wings on these drones, SSP drones. They're not huge. They're just like bigger, a bit bigger than a car flying around, teasing the US Navy air jets and the fighter pilots. It's like, here's a preview, sneak peek of what's to come in your future, but it's not right now, and you won't know who's piloting this stuff remotely with their Neuralink implants.
So we know that the Space Force has now been made, which there has been rumor, and I'm pretty sure some documentation of it being made way, way, way before, like back in the like 60s, 70s, sometime in there. So I've heard. With the Space Force now coming out, are they going to start sliding this stuff in as disclosure of, oh, our military has magically brought out these new, you know, spaceships and stuff, and now that we can go in space and do all this other stuff?
I think eventually they'll own that tech, and they'll say that's ours, even though it's Planetary Corp tech. It'll be disclosed under Space Force. I do think that's going to happen. They'll say, surprise, we have TR6s and TR10s. Here you go. This is the triangles you've been seeing. Welcome. I don't think they'll own up to those drones that they're teasing people with right now, that you can remote pilot that stuff. I don't think they'll tease people with that. But the TR craft, I think they will reveal that is what they have. But they won't tell us it came from Planetary Corp on Mars or the moon. They're not going to tell us that. We just have the technology. We've been working on it. Now we can disclose that we have this. It was top secret before, but now we have it and can go to Mach 10, potentially visit Mars, potentially do it. I think that's how it will be disclosed. When, I don't know, but it will.
Anyone's guess is as good as... Wow, I am tongue-tied today. Anyone's guess is as good as ours at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Because I get so many emails, and I'm sure you do too, about like all these questions of, you know, when's everything coming out? And, you know, you guys are in ties with all these ETs. When are they coming down here to save us? And I'm just like, they've given us information. They're giving us direction. Obviously, we have negative factions, or as I call it, factions with ulterior, you know, intentions than the light factions or positive factions. And that's a whole new ball game of ET politics that I'm not going to go into. But, you know, like we have all this information. It's just a matter of who's going to do what with it now, who's going to bring it out now. I'm surprised that I'm still standing here with some of the stuff that I disclosed, especially earlier on in my like 2018 stuff. And I was getting warnings. I was getting threats. I'm sure you've gotten your warnings and you've gotten your threats too.
Oh, the threats, not so much. Warnings, sometimes, yes. But, you know, at this point, what I'm supposed to disclose and what I want to disclose, I will, regardless of what anybody tells me or tries to stop me. We need to know this information so people know what's beyond the 3D matrix, what's above your head, what's below your feet. We need to know this. Now it's us disclosing it, but eventually when all this stuff comes out as real, people are going to go and say, well, those people talked about it on YouTube 20, 40 years ago. So there was some information to corroborate this stuff. And I've had a lot of UFOs flying around my house when I lived in Kelowna, in South Surrey, White Rock area in Canada, British Columbia. Those towns are like 4 or 5 hours from each other. When you go on UFO Stalker website, it's not a stalker website. It's just called that because they track UFOs. They get reporting on UFO sightings. When you put South Surrey, White Rock, there's the triangular UFOs flying around. There's the saucer UFOs flying around. They have the telemetry, which date it was, what time it was, what kind of an object it was, what it looks like, and sometimes even a picture that the person who had the sighting reports it. They put it into this UFO database online, and everybody can see the maps of where these UFO corridors and activity are happening. It's happening above my house all the time. I've taken hundreds of photos of these UFOs, and they appear triangular or like light craft. I don't think digital cameras have the full capacity to truly capture the face and the shape of the UFOs, because it looks like a triangular, like grayish green craft to me, and it photographs like a light triangle, like a light spectrum triangle on the digital SLR camera, professional camera. So I don't think our image capturing technology is up to snuff to really capture the full shape and the spectrum of the UFO. What our eyes see is not what the camera truly photographs. The tech needs to be better.
Yeah, and I think they dumb down that tech for specific reasons, obviously. You know, I've heard of cameras actually taking full photographs of ghosts and everything, and the government literally hunted down these cameras and took them away. So the only thing I can think of is actually having a pure, pristine, 100% crystal lens on the camera. And then, of course, you know, the infrared and the gamma and ultraviolet cameras. You know, anything that you can pick up with energy manipulation, you should be able to pick up with UFOs as well, because they put off the same light emission.
Yeah, and I did that. I used thermal imaging, infrared application. My camera didn't have that physically on it, but there's apps that can tell you thermal imaging. It can tell you the different heat signatures, where the UFO is putting it out on the craft. I found its propulsion systems. The red spots are the propulsion systems where the most heat signature is coming from these crafts. All of them had a heat signature, and I have about 100 photos. All of them had a heat signature. Not one of them did not emit a heat signature. All of them have it. Some green, some blue, some red. The more colorful it is, like red, it's putting off serious energy field from a propulsion system. I suspect they're SSP. Most of them are SSP craft, just tracking me and monitoring me where I am, just physically tracking me by my soul energy, because they can. My genetics is on their file records. They know where I am. They know what I've disclosed. So I just think they're monitoring what I'm doing. They're not super interfering with me, but the monitoring, they're letting me know we're here. Maybe if you say too much, there will be some consequences, just letting you, hi, hey, hi, we know you're here. We know what you're doing. So I think that's why they were tracking me. I hope I was not abducted further than what I originally was. And if I was, I really don't want to know about it right now, because I have enough of what I know about my experiences. I don't need to add extra gray abductions to the experience, because I know some people have been abducted by grays where I am in British Columbia. Through the hypnosis, they said I was abducted by grays on these triangular ships. I see a lot of triangles above my head. I'm just like, energetically, I know they're all SSP for the most part, but we have grays lurking around and reptilians.
Well, in some of the grays, there are species of grays, because not all of them are the same. There's many, many different types. There are some that are naturally evolved from other humanoids, and they can reproduce on their own. But there are other grays that are actually genetically created in a lab, and I'm sure that you've seen this too. Mm-hmm. You know, where they're what we call servants. You buy them and they do tasks for you. It's just the way that ET life is out there. And a lot of the times when interacting here with Earth, you will be abducted by grays, but that doesn't tell you what faction they're from at all.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. So I'm like, if I've had anything else other than my experiences that I know of, I'll leave that out as a mystery for now, because I'm just tracking the movements of when I photograph those UFOs, put everything through thermal imaging. I've been photographing this stuff from 2016 until 2019. And the reason I stopped photographing it is because I photographed every kind that I could. Eventually, the shapes started just repeating themselves because it's the usual. the saucers, the triangles, the pyramids, the weird looking ornament craft. I've had stuff appear as ornaments and presents in the sky at night. I've had things appearing as weird, kind of like that elongated thing that looks like a digital drawing that suddenly appeared in the sky, and that's how it got photographed. People like, you drew that. I'm like, no, I didn't. This is what I photographed. This is what it is. This is what I'm showing you. People have said, no, that's not real. How can it look like a digital copy of a UFO hanging above somebody's house? It looks weird. I don't know why. It just is how it is, and I photographed it that way. But when I put it through the thermal imaging app, it was glowing orange. The whole craft was a heat signature. Not parts of it. All of it was a heat signature.
Right, because the torus field that the craft creates itself it emits light. It emits some sort of energy that it has to pick up.
And it was like an egg-shaped craft with some things on the sides and some triangles in the middle towards the back. Maybe that's where its propulsion system is. And it was white. It was just above a house. I don't know why it photographed that way. I don't know, but it did. But when you put it through thermal imaging, it's orange. It's all orange. So
do you have any of those pictures that are not under contract that perhaps maybe we could put up here so that people can...
I can't because it's for a book.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I'm giving you a description. Once the book is out, I can show it. But okay. Right now, it's definitely for a special project. But I've had it out before. I think people have seen it somewhere. But I'm just trying to be careful with it now because it's for a book. Once I have the book published, I can definitely show you portions of the book.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a huge project. But I've stopped photographing it because it's the same thing. These things don't really change over time. It's the same crafts that have been hovering above my home. And I can physically track them because other people have reported sightings of that stuff. So this phenomenon is physically evidentiary there because there's history of others reporting seeing the same stuff that I did. I don't report it because I just take the photos of it. That's evidence enough for me. But tracking back the maps on UFO Stalker of all the reports in these areas where I lived, it corroborates that I've seen these craft. And I have photos of them.
When these craft are around, does anything else happen?
It feels like I'm being watched and I'm connecting with these crafts. Like I'm tracking their movement and they're tracking my movement, and they want to be photographed. That's why they're showing themselves. They want to be on camera. They want to be physically seen as a physical phenomenon spectrum, physically there. So it's like they want others to know that they're here, and that they're not going away.
So, I mean, some UFOs are quite shy. Like me and my producer were in the car going down the road, and we saw one of the UFOs that had like that rainbow streak to it, and we tried to record it. Our phones wouldn't work. It gave us errors on our camera. We have digital cameras, gave us errors on that. But like some UFOs like to be recorded, say the ones that you were seeing, and I don't watch too much of it, but like the ones at ESETI Ranch, those ones apparently like to be seen as well, and they will be like, hey, over here,
Oh yeah, it's like I could find the perfect angle to photograph these crafts. They would just hover, move slightly left to right. But I could I had to use my camera. I have a DSLR, Nikon 7100. It's an old camera by these standards. It's digital. It's from 2017. It's an old model. I haven't used it since 2019. I've just been busy. But I had to set it on manual mode just to zoom in properly on the UFO. If it was in auto mode, it was too blurry, out of focus, could not photograph it. I had to manually adjust the focus, look up on the night sky, manually adjust it, get the proper angle, center it, and take a snap. Otherwise, it wouldn't photograph. So it has to be on manual setting.
And I always have the speculation. Well, obviously, like I know how electromagnetic fields work to a degree, but they put off a lot of energy, you know. So anything digital and stuff like it messes with the frequency of the camera and the chips and everything. So your camera may or may not work very well unless it's in a Faraday cage. But you know, and that goes with like ETs being able to mess with your technology too. Security cameras, you know, your digital camera, your car. We've all heard the, you know, stories of like cars stopping working when UFOs are around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just happy I photographed them in whatever way that I could, in the triangles and the circles. Like you can see that that is a craft of some sort hovering above my house, above the roof line and the trees. There's other things in the photo other than what the craft is.
Was this taken at daytime or nighttime?
Nighttime, all at night. Nothing during the day. Nothing.
Of course.
It's always at night, 10, 11 p.m. When I went for my nightly walks, because I worked until 7, 8 p.m. I just wanted to go for a walk at night every day after work. Boom, hovering above me. I go for a walk in the forest, above me. Hovering above, I'm sitting at the porch at my front door above my house. See them coming up and I'm like, okay, get that camera and start snapping. You'll need this eventually for something. I just had a feeling you'll need it for something. And I guess it's, what, 5, 7 years later, it's evidence that UFOs have been following me around for a very long time.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, it's like most people want photographic evidence. Most people want mapping, tracking, that these things are real, that they exist, that you're interacting with the phenomenon. Well, I have the evidence. It is all there. It's going to take time to put in the book. I've collated the evidence. Now I just have to write the observable stuff about this evidence.
Now, the UFOs that you were taking pictures of, are these physical as the eye can see, or are they cloaked?
No, it's physical what the eye can see. It's just the camera takes the photo differently from what I was seeing.
It's that bending of light.
Yeah, a beam of light. Exactly. That's how the camera photographs it. I was seeing a green triangle, like a green triangle. I was able to draw what I've seen. I actually have a drawing of it, the one that appeared the most to me. But beams of light is what got photographed. Circles, triangles, squares, pyramids, everything in between the spectrum all got photographed. And the shape is seen better when you put it under thermal imaging. And that weird white egg-shaped craft mothership is big. I don't know why it looks like a digital drawing. I have no idea why my cell phone photographed it that way, but it did. I have no clue.
Some cell phones aren't really all that great at their cameras, depending on the models and when the camera came out.
It's a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. It's an older, it's an older smartphone. Like, it's a dinosaur by these standards, but in 2019, it was like, it actually photographed the shape of the craft, but this thing looks so weird. People said you doodled that in. I'm like, no, I didn't. What the cell phone caught is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is there is what is there. And it's huge. It's orange. Like when you put it under thermal imaging, it is lighting up like orange frequency. So this thing is putting off a lot of energy output.
Did you ever feel any like extra heat or anything when they were around?
No. All I felt was, I'm here. I want you to get a photo of me. I want you to catalog me, and I want you to present me to the world. At the time, I wasn't following any of the, I want you to do this. I was just taking photos of it just to have it because I like to document everything that I experience. Now I'm like, okay, 5, 7 years later, we'll document you. You're gonna be known and seen. And I got the feeling that the big mothership, the egg mothership, it was connected to my mother. It was talking to my mother. It was giving her messages. She's the one that noticed it and said, look, that thing is hovering above us. That white egg-shaped craft is above our house. Ooh, picture time. because I take pictures of everything, and that one looked extra weird. I don't know what it is, but I got that it was a mothership, and my mom talked to it somehow. I didn't really ask for the message, but she got a message, and she said it was positive and felt good.
So at this time that you were taking pictures, were you aware of being in the SSP and, you know, your past lives?
Yes, I was fully aware of it. Yeah, at that time, because by 2016, I'd say I'd had like 60% of my memories, and sorting out what the past life stuff with the ETs are, what the present ET contacts are, and what the SSP stuff is. I still have ongoing ET contacts with Andromedans, Arcturians, Pleiadians, and the L rays. Recently went to Venus. That's going to be in the book. I saw ARC ships on Venus.
I heard it's lovely this time of year.
Yes, they're building their dome cities back. They're rebuilding stuff on the surface. So yeah, it's and they're excavating ARC ships, ancient Pleiadian ships.
So what are these ARC ships? I keep having some people talk about it, but I have no clue on what they are.
They're ancient, huge ships that were carrying DNA, biologicals, to reseed planets with galactic ET DNA, human DNA, plant life, animal life. So they're, and some of them are knowledge repositories for different planetary system histories and universal knowledge. They're huge. The one that I saw being excavated on Venus is this large, elongated silver metallic craft. And it had an energetic pyramid, like a purple pyramid above it, and just with an energy beam extracting it out of the ground.
So me being in the Starseed Council, not the one of Earth, but the other one, this kind of actually reminds me of what most people would understand as the Gardens of Eden, because every creator on a seed planet, they have their own territories that they start their experiments off in, i.e. humanity. And it would have knowledge. It would have all the DNA of the plants and animals of that area and everything that they wanted to incorporate eventually for the evolution and actually put it on the ship as well.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's like, it's the Garden of Eden ships. And I just call them the ARC ships because that's easy. They have everything. They have biodomes on them. They have gardens. They have plants. They have habitable systems where people can live, different habitats. Depending on what race you are, it can simulate a living habitat for you to be on the ships. They can travel for thousands of years out in space, or they can park themselves on planets, the larger, bigger motherships, and just create colonies.
So, I mean, obviously Earth has them because, you know, it's the fifth era of man, or at least I was told the fifth era of man. And there's a lot of different eras that have happened. I don't know if they take usually they take the ships off of the planet before the wipe. But it's interesting to see that, you know, Venus has them, and you said there were some other planets that have them as well. Like I didn't know that.
Saturn, Neptune, Mars has one or two. Earth has several. Okay. There's one crashed one in the Baltic Sea that I've remote viewed. It's like, looks like the Star Falcon from Star Wars. Looks like that. There's several, and sometimes they're left on planets with the universal knowledge to help with our awakening when we're ready for that awakening. Certain starseeds will connect to those ships, and they'll connect to their galactic heritage through those ships, because they're Akashic records as well, some of these ships. That's what they're designed for. So I think some of them are activating now, and we're hearing about them because people are connecting to them and describing what they are and what their experience with these ARC ships were or is.
And well, I have a little bit of information of the ones that I've encountered through my job with the Starseed Council. And I don't know if you know what the Starseed Council is. Most people don't.
I have a basic awareness, but please describe.
So the Starseed Council, not the one of Earth, I guess there's a YouTube group or something called the Starseed Council. It's actually from Hanova, which is Central Universe. It's basically Prime Creator. And they made this council to basically go and make sure that all the starseed planets, experimental planets, are following orders. There's, you know, they have so long before the planets basically have to be reset for obviously resource reasons and to basically maintain the safety of the universe, just in case an experiment goes awry and they become viral. They're not allowed off planet and they have to be wiped, aka Mars. You know, so there was a lot of stuff that happened with Mars, and apparently a lot more after I left that had happened as well. Apparently there's been a few things that have happened over there, and Earth as well. But that's basically our jobs. But during the process where we go in for the wipe, we call it the wipe. It's basically a reset. The arcs usually get removed from these areas. So that's the only information that I have on them because of the job that I had. But, you know, like I didn't realize that some of them ended up staying there. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense if they're going to carry over some of the experiments or some of the plants or animals even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And people are connecting to it and saying that they're genetically, these ARC ships, they're connected to it genetically. You know, if their DNA frequency is correct, they can access the internal portions of these ARC ships. And a lot of them have crystalline technology that powers them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I've looked at these ARC ships and connected to some of them, and that's what they look like to me as well. I've been on several Andromeda and Pleiadian ARC ships, but I'm not really like, it's not my main thing that I focus in from the past life stuff, but I've looked into it, and they're like beautiful, huge ARC ships that travel for a long time out in space. Some of them are colony ships. Some of them are seeder ships. They have different purposes and how they work and what they do. Some of them are just like exploration ships recording new planets, new findings, different purposes for, not all of them are the same.
Yeah, I know that when ETs want a experimental planet, they have to actually register it for the Starseed Council. That way we know where it is and maintain everything. It's not really like, oh, we're going to go over to this blank planet and, you know, go over there and start colonizing. It's completely different. The experimental planets are for, they get leeway for experiments and stuff that normally in ET society you really wouldn't get away with in either the political or social environment. So they have to actually register that planet. So those arcs are usually they are actually provided by the Starseed Council, and those ones are really high technology.
Yeah, the ones that I saw had a lot of crystalline stuff on it, and holographic technology and data banks and a lot of history stuff. It's like there's not one universe in creation, there's many universes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that technology usually has a couple things that are always constant within their databases. So I'm wondering if I can't actually walk onto one that was provided by the Starseed Council and like go into it. But
and what is the technology? Can you describe the technology provided on these ARC ships?
So they're usually a dumbed down version of Hanovian technology. Crystal technology at the highest degree of dimensions is extremely hard for most people to understand. It's very rare. And people are like, oh, everyone has crystal technology up in space. That is not true. It's like 0.2% of people up in space that have crystal technology. You have to not only have the knowledge to use it, but your dimensions have to be high enough to use it as well. Otherwise, you're going to be fried completely, or lots of bad things can happen. Mm-hmm. Or it just doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Integrating crystal technology with metallic parts is not easy. And sometimes you have to reconfigure the whole system to try to make it mesh. And that's what Planetary Corp tried to do with my memories of these crystal tech on these ARC ships. And I I'd still say it's in the experimental tech phase. Hasn't been fully completed yet, but they have been able to integrate some crystalline technology to go beyond the speed of light on their current ships. So some integration has happened, but I think the engine system is going from plasma to crystalline based. Just small component tweaks, removing the plasma core, putting in crystalline core essence, not making the whole ship crystalline, just the core. That makes it possible to go beyond the speed of light for the propulsion system.
Right. And are you talking about plasma as in, I guess it would depend your definition of plasma, because if people want to really talk about it, there's two different types. There's the pronoplasma, which you see in the stargates. Like when you go through the stargate, that's the first plasma. And then the second plasma would be super concentrated, like lightning, because there are two different types.
Super concentrated lightning, I think, for the engines.
Okay.
On the ships, because they use plasma cores. Think Star Trek, dilithium crystals, plasma core. That type. That's what Planetary Corp originally had.
Okay.
And what pilots their ships, but they're going with crystalline core systems.
All right. Now, so you guys are working with the first foundations of crystalline technology.
Yes, that's what they were working on when I was still in the SSP.
Okay.
I don't have access to that, but that's what I remember I was working on developing when I was in the aeronautics job, in that job field. Because every 10 years I would get switched to different jobs. And that comprised my 16 back, so I did many different job things, including working on the crystalline. Since that was information that was extracted from my past life memories, sort of had to be there to integrate those components to show them how it worked.
Yeah. And for most people who don't know, most people think of crystals like, just the rocks, but that's just one of the forms that crystals can actually take. There are 3 other phases that the crystal can actually go through. And when it hits a certain phase, it becomes almost liquid. And that carries the most amount of data and light. So if you have an AI that's a ship AI that is also part of the engine, all of that data gets transferred to the AI.
They managed to get the crystalline essence into the liquid form. Okay. Because there's the solid, there's the liquid, and there's the flow state.
Right.
So they got the liquid in the middle portion. That's what they're using as the crystalline field to power these ships to go beyond the speed of light. So they're using the liquid format of it.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's complicated. Even I'm like, how does that all work? And I work with different crystals and different energy frequencies of the crystals.
Yeah, and exactly. And as you know, you can't just use any old crystal. It really has to be a perfect, pristine, forged crystal. And to get those, you really kind of have to either find them, which is really rare, or you have to make them in space. And even your surrounding in space have to be pristine and perfect for the conditions. Because if you have a geometric storm going on, or electric storm, or a gravity storm, it's not working. And
the liquid form of the crystal has to be stabilized, so it doesn't have a destabilization matrix in the construct of the liquid formation.
Yes, exactly.
I'm getting a bit scientific here, but it has to be it has to be a liquid state that is stabilized. Otherwise, it could implode, and the ship is going bye-bye supernova style. Might even destroy a planet along the way if it's not stabilized correctly in that liquid field.
Right, and so those molecules of the crystal have to be 100% pure. They have to be perfect. And that has to do with the forging process and everything else. Because when it goes to that liquid state, if it's the molecules in the solid state, which is pretty much goes back to the solid state when you're not using the engine, and then it will quickly liquefy when it starts going into that state when you start using the engine. Between the light data, like all those molecules have to be perfect, because you get one impurity in there and you're screwed.
Yeah, it's screwed big time. You can destroy the ship and the planet, and you have a supernova event in a light spectrum that is every telescope will pick it up
Oh,
2 galaxies away.
Yeah. My jaw just popped. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's incredible what they're doing with the crystalline technology, and those arc ships have that on there already, fully developed.
And just to let people know, those ARC ships do have security systems. So if you think you're just going to waltz in there and be like, I'm going to take this technology, you're going to be a pile of incinerated goo before you know it.
Yeah, unless you're genetically connected to that security system and your genetics match up, you can't just go in there and take stuff off or pilot this thing off the planet. It's genetically coded to certain star seeds and certain extraterrestrials who created these arc ships in the first place. So they have access to it if they're still alive and around and come back for it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yay, someone else who knows this stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah. I know some of it because it's part of my memories from the past life stuff as the Star Traveler, being on those types of ships. But I think we covered so much today, and today was great.
A big thanks to all of you Stellar Stars for watching. Looking for more? Come check out all of our content on Galaxy of Unity's official website at galaxyofunity.squarespace.com. That has from Galaxy of Unity's talk show, Galactic Tea Time, Apollymi's interviews with other hosts, along with exclusive personal disclosure that you're not going to get from anywhere else.